without further ado, I would like to introduce Miss Carol Buchanan, our lovely president of the Neighborhood Association.
And I didn't pay her to say that.
Of course not.
Thank you everyone for coming to the Neighborhood Association meeting. I have good news and bad news tonight, and I'll start with the bad news. We invited all 4 candidates way ahead of time. But after contacting Bart Albini and Joel Ziegler multiple times, we did not receive a response at all. When we had our executive board meeting, we thought about it and we thought we should go ahead with the candidates forum as we always have, because it's important for voters to hear the candidates' positions and for the community to be able to ask them questions. Now, just today at about 5 p.m., I received from Mary Devon O'Brien written responses to our questions, written responses by Bart and Joel. It's unfortunate that the 2 candidates are not able to participate during now and also during the question and answer period. We have changed the date of our procedure when a candidate has indicated they can't make it. But we do want to hear their opinions, so I have asked my loyal husband to read the responses to the questions. The good news is that you should be able to get home a little earlier tonight. And I think the World Series is on, and there might be a show or a book you want to read. So we really want to thank Vic and India and Jim for participating in this procedure. And I'll read over how it works. We'll start out with a 2-minute opening statement by each candidate, and then we'll have 1.5 minutes for responding to the prepared questions that they received ahead of time. We'd like them to have time to think about what they want to say, so we send them the questions ahead of time. There'll be approximately 15 minutes for questions and answers from the audience, and then we'll have 2 minutes for a closing statement by each candidate. So, Jim?
I don't have the fairness.
It's right here.
I have to sit in this one. This is Mr. Albini's first.
You don't have to change seats.
I wanted to be clear what's going on. I mean, in terms of, you know, I don't.
You could just change tags.
So now I'm starting the introduction that Mr. Albini has sent to us. In these tough and depressing economic times, it is quite obvious that the current political powers have no clue, nor do they care about the needs of the people. They have not only helped to cause our current economic problems, but are continuing to add to these problems. As citizens and taxpayers of Maplewood, number one, we can no longer support those in government who want to write themselves into our history books for the sake of their egos. Secondly, we can no longer allow these people to erect monuments to themselves while stepping on people's backs and misspending the people's hard-earned money. We can no longer allow our governing body to support special interest groups at the expense of the people. We can no longer tolerate overspending and overborrowing. We can no longer tolerate the misuse of our municipal resources. We can no longer allow the overtaxing of the people to cover up their mistakes. We can no longer allow their sleight of hand tactics to put us deeper in debt. It is for these reasons that I, Bart Albini, again am running for the Maplewood Township Committee. I have worked with the CBAC for over 6 years and have very good working knowledge of the municipal budget. Secondly, I have been in IT for over 40 years, giving me an excellent knowledge and perspective of technology in reducing costs and improving efficiency. I was one of the ones that brought the state of our municipal buildings to the public after the years of neglect by the Township Committee. I publicly predicted Maplewood's current state of affairs if the Township Committee did not change their spend, borrow, and tax attitude. I have been involved with the Newcomers Club of Maplewood, the Maplewood Lions Club, and I've been on the board of Troop 5 for over 10 years. Having lived in Maplewood for 26 years and had both my children go through the educational system of Maplewood, I do have a vested interest in Maplewood. We must vote them out.
Thank you. Okay, Vic, your opening statement, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out, and thank you to India, my running mate, for having the respect of this organization, respecting this organization, and respecting the process of debate to show up. I think it says a lot about who shows up and who doesn't. When I was listening to Mr. Albini talk about no, 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 I understood why he's a Republican, because they have been the party of no and no nothing. And unfortunately, in this town, Mr. Albini has, I think, embarrassed himself and his running mate by not showing up and being held to the same standards as a candidate that I think each of you expect from the candidates who want to represent you. I've had the opportunity of being on the Township Committee for just about 12 years, and it started right here. I was a member of the Hilton Neighborhood Association, and Al Brown, one of our members, stood up right in the middle of this crowd here and said, we need to run you for Township Committee. And eventually it happened. I have been honored to serve. I think I have put in the time. I think I've put in the energy. I'm still willing to do it for another 3 years and continue. And I know some people ask why, and one particular person in this room will ask why, and reminds me constantly about the balance of time. But it does take time. It takes time to come to debates like this. It takes time to listen to people. It takes time to knock on doors. And it takes time to be responsive when you're an elected official. I think I've done all that, and I will continue to do that as we go through. We got 15 seconds left. Let me just tell you, you just heard this litany of problems. There are tremendous challenges out there. But the true test of a leader is standing up to those challenges and getting involved, working with your colleagues to try to get through those. That's what we're about.
Thank you. India?
Good evening, and thank you to the Hilton Neighborhood Association for inviting all of us. And I too would like to thank Vic for coming. And I would like to send a message that Bart and Joel, we missed you. When John and I, my husband John, who unfortunately is unable to be here because he's just getting back from Philadelphia, but when we came to Maplewood 16 years ago, we used to take walks down to the village every week. And on one of those little jaunts down into the village, we happened to run across Ellen Davenport, who at the time was the mayor of the town and obviously a member of the Township Committee. And I have to say that when I met her, I was very intimidated, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is the mayor. And as I began getting involved with the township, first on the Community Coalition on Race about 2 years after we moved in, I realized that Ellen Davenport, she's a very nice person, but she's really just a Maplewood resident who's getting involved to run a town that she loves. And so, as a result, I know that I can do this, and I fit in here. Basically, I've always said that a town is only as strong as its residents are involved. And I say that all the time about neighborhoods, I say it all the time about churches, I say it all the time, because people have to get involved. And I have a history here in Maplewood of being involved. First of all, with the Community Coalition on Race, on their board, and then as a founding member of the Midland Park Neighborhood Association, and then obviously with the Maplewood First Aid Squad. As a former community relations professional, I've worked with community groups to tackle important issues, and I am ready to tackle ours as well. Thank you.
Now I'll ask Jim to read Joel's. You can stay right where you're
Stay there, Jim, stay there.
was educated at Seton Hall Prep, Philadelphia University, Seton Hall Law School. He was admitted to the New Jersey Bar and United States District Court after getting his law degree, and has been practicing attorney ever since. Is that better? Can you hear that now? That's the opening statement.
Okay, thank you. All right, we usually alternate which person we start with as we ask the questions. So we'll start with Vic, and the first question has to do with shared services. How successful are Maplewood's shared services so far? And what areas and actions do you recommend for future opportunities?
When we're talking about shared service, I think there's two objectives. One is enhanced service delivery for Maplewood residents. Certainly the other town wants the same, but we want to make sure for Maplewood residents the services will be better, certainly not less than what we're getting right now. And the second objective is to reduce costs to bring in new revenue. So that's what we're looking at when we talk about shared services. If we don't touch both of those, there's no reason to do it. What we've done. January 1st, we opened up the Maplewood South Orange Shared Municipal Violations Bureau and Shared Municipal Courts. Maplewood reaped $140,000 from that money that South Orange pays Maplewood. That was new money to Maplewood, so clearly there was that benefit. If we had to build something to get that kind of tax money, we'd have to build something that was worth $17,500,000. It would have to be huge. So we've done that. We processed 32,000 filings. It's one of the largest suburban courts. We have 2 less staff. We saved $100,000 in staff. We've reduced costs in operation, consolidated purchasing. We've gotten shared databases. So this is a tremendous win. And I think it's the model that we're promoting. And in fact, we sent it to the State League of Municipalities as a model in a competition. Second, we sell automobile repairs. We're in the automobile repair business. We repair autos for South Orange and Springfield. It's not a huge money maker, but it allows us to keep our DPW auto department fully staffed. Code enforcement services. On November 1st rather, we're going to start selling code enforcement services to South Orange. We're going to get some money out of that. More importantly, we're going to change our operations so that we'll get more efficiency out of our Code Enforcement Bureau, which I think has been a bone of contention of a lot of people. Some of them are in this room. Other shared services, we have a shared service, animal control, cable television community station, health services with the school system, building inspectors with Milburn, grass cutting contract with South Orange, purchasing services for Springfield, and of course the jewel is we share a school system. What do we up next? We're having conversations about fire. I have a meeting 10:30 tomorrow morning with Alex Torpy, the village president of South Orange. We're talking with them about DPW services, and we're talking with them about health.
Thank you. India?
Thank you. Well, I want to thank my running mate for going down the list for me so he saves some of my time. There are certain reasons why you want to start shared services initiatives. You want to streamline processes and eliminate duplication of effort. You want to save money. You want to raise money. Or you want to increase and enhance services without increasing the cost. And to the extent that the initiatives, as so eloquently stated by my running mate here, by Mayor DeLuca, to the extent that they meet those goals, at least 2 or more of them, I would say absolutely they are very, very successful. I would like to continue with that. There's no reason not to. They will continue to be successful. More initiatives like this will be successful so long as we are diligent to evaluate them on their merits and keep a watchful eye on them to make sure that they are always reaping the benefits that we want them to. I'm on record as saying that I would like to see the library services with the library shared. Once we have our new director get her feet wet a little bit. Health, the fire department also. I would like to see all of this happen. Thank you.
Joel?
Without formal procedures, EMT, fire, and police personnel come to the aid of neighboring towns when needed. However, combining these services has unique challenges. The differences between union and civil service representation offer specific challenges to combining certain public safety groups, but sharing the courtroom at the new parenthesis and expensive end of parenthesis police building with neighboring towns is a good example of sharing facilities. This needs to translate into some clear savings to the taxpayers of Maplewood. Another example of working shared services is the Maplewood South Orange shared school system and its services to students. In this case, shared services do not necessarily mean a reduced cost to the taxpayers. In part, this is because the taxpayers of Maplewood and South Orange do not have a direct vote on the school budgets, which are instead decided by representatives of the school boards and town officials. Changing this legislatively would give the taxpayer more control.
I thought we were gonna go home early.
Why don't we just put the both sides on that side? Anyway, these are Bart Albini's opinions.
Well, if someone picks up television representation of this, they may not understand. All right.
You have to say who you're speaking
Right
for.
now, I am Bart Albini's response to the shared services question. It has been found, based on articles by the Wall Street Journal, that in many cases the sharing of services with other municipalities does not necessarily mean a reduction in costs or savings. In many instances, it has cost the municipalities, and consequently an increase to the taxpayers, more than what they expected to save. Part of the problem is the employment contracts with municipalities have their employees. Are the employees civil servants? If they are, it is easier to remove a tenured teacher than it is to remove a civil servant. A typical case is Maplewood and South Orange, where in South Orange we have civil servant employees and in Maplewood we don't. If we were to share services such as police, fire, EMTs, and recreational services, then Maplewood would be forced to reduce its personnel in favor of the South Orange personnel. If personnel could not be reduced due to the issues of contracts and public safety, then there is no savings, but a possible increase in costs of which the taxpayers would have to shoulder the burden. The only way a shared service can save municipalities money and help reduce the burden to the taxpayers is if the service is one that is beneficial to all concerned parties. A good example of this is a centralized IT structure.
Thank you. The next question, and we will start with India, is about, well, problems that they see. Besides taxes, what do you consider to be the most pressing problem facing Maplewood, and how do you propose to solve it?
I am concerned that our neighborhoods remain as safe as possible. My own neighborhood, the Midland Park Neighborhood Association, thank you, has seen an uptick in crime, assaults, break-ins, and crimes of that nature. And that's a little disconcerting for me, especially as the mother of 3 children. I believe that strengthening our neighborhood associations will help to stem some of that increase in crime. The creation of neighborhood watch programs is an obvious preventive for some of this activity. Additionally, as I've said before, it's imperative that we keep an interest in our young people. We don't want to have idle young people, idle youth, getting into nuisance crimes. We really don't need to have homegrown crime. I'd rather it come from outside, and then we can try to stem the tide with neighborhood watches, with strong neighborhood associations, and also even strong business districts, so that we are supportive of, overall supportive of our neighborhoods in our township. Thank you.
Could you please read Joel's
Stay there.
Oh, you
Papers
have to
over
get
there.
it. This will be Joel's response.
This is shared services, yes? No. Problems? The continued push to build more residential units instead of attracting commercial entities means the homeowners are still responsible for the largest share of the tax-paying base. Unless age regulated, additional housing units can also add to the school enrollment and consequent tax burden. There are quality of life issues that face Maplewood, such as the neighborhood problems caused by sale of the women's club after the town decided to tax the previously tax-exempt women's club, and the new chicken raising, I think you meant, venture proposed by some of the town's leaders without a groundswell of support from the Maplewood citizens.
Thank you. And now we need to hear Bart's response.
Other than taxes, the most pressing problem facing Maplewood is the Township Committee. This is a group of 5 elected members who are supposed to help improve our quality of life and be fiscally responsible. Yet, they have increased our debt service from $0.9 million to cover over $24 million in the last 10 years. I'm sorry, I read that incorrectly. They have increased our debt service from $0.9 million to over $24 million in the last 10 years. Added new taxes under the guise of open space to pay for services that they could not justify under the normal tax appropriations. Built an eco-friendly police station that uses 5 times more energy and costs 6 times more to maintain than the previous police station. Spent millions of dollars improving Springfield Avenue while doing little, if anything, to prevent the loss of commercial ratables. And have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on repairs of municipal buildings that, had they been properly maintained, would have cost 10% of what it has cost the taxpayers so far. To resolve these issues, the Township Committee should have self-imposed, until they become the norm, term limits of no more than 2 terms. Insist on nonpartisan elections and appropriate tax dollars, not on their legality, but on their ethical nature. Also, for every 225, okay.
All right, the next one.
Point of order. You know, you come out and you say 15 seconds left. He's read over twice one part of the answer. He's got to fumble in turning over the pages. At least let's find out what Bart Albini, although he is not here, has to say.
There are 2 more sentences.
Well, I just want to say that we are going way above and beyond what is necessary to get the responses. So I think that we're doing the best we can, and we have a very excellent timer, and we will continue to function that way.
I'm usually very careful.
Yes, she's very experienced. Okay, so I'm sorry, but that's the situation. The next question has to do with revenue.
I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like Jim to read my answer.
I'm not playing favorites because it's my husband. I'm sorry, just keep me alert. Go ahead.
You know, when you talk to people about why they moved to Maplewood, certainly schools are right up there. You know, you get the trained schools, the attractive neighborhoods, a feeling of community, nice parks. I think that's what we have to talk about. I mean, I know we talk a lot about taxes, and people say, you know, it's a great place to live, but the taxes are high. But it is a great place to live, and we ought to look at the positives. The positives are we have a good school system, we have very attractive parks, we're still improving them, even with an open space trust fund that the voters approved, not the Township Committee. And so these are the things I think that I want to continue to work on is, what do people care about when they move here? Why do they want to stay here? I think those are the things. One of the concerns I have is that that feeling has to be felt throughout the whole community. Whether you're on Wyoming Avenue or Van Ness Court, everyone has to feel engaged in the community and that this is a place that they want to live in and raise their family. So that's what we have to work on, making sure people are involved in the community, giving them opportunities to serve however they might want to as a volunteer, making sure that our services are equal across the town. And I know, as the Hilton Neighborhood Association, we had some problems with that 15 years ago when we organized. And so I think that is something that I want to continue to make sure happens, that everybody feels that this is their community and that we have one Maplewood.
Thank you. And now I think it's time for the next question. Revenue. Since we are receiving little assistance from the state, do you have any ideas for generating revenue for Maplewood other than raising taxes? And we'd like to hear what Joel wrote first.
The statement that we are receiving little assistance from the state has implications that we taxpayers do not also pay for that financial assistance. But certainly the Maplewood can charge more modest increases for some of the services, such as commuter parking. It can also reduce the additional open space taxes imposed on Maplewood residents and stop using taxpayer dollars to fund charities chosen by the township officials. Charitable contributions should be made by people who individually choose to do so. Finally, the township can negotiate better in lieu contributions from the Maplewood entities that do not pay taxes and seek revenue sources like cell tower rentals.
Thank you. Okay, so next is Bart's response.
Before we look at generating revenues, we must first look at paring down our tax appropriations. In our current tax appropriation, there are areas that should not be in our appropriations budget. They are the Maplewood Pool, which is a private utility, and contributions to selective nonprofit organizations. If we were to remove these from the tax appropriations, we would reduce our appropriations by at least $1.2 million. This would have effectively lowered our municipal taxes rather than produce a zero increase. To generate revenue, the first thing that Maplewood must do is to properly market itself for commercial ratables. The second thing Maplewood must do is to stop rezoning commercial property to residential. Though on the surface, residential property appears to produce revenue, it has a negative effect. Once you increase the residential populace, not only must you then increase police, fire, and EMT services, but you also increase the cost to our educational system. For each child that enters our educational system, a cost of $17,000 plus is added to our educational tax appropriation. Thus, if you were a family with 2 children and paying between $13,000 and $24,000 in property taxes, it would cost the municipality more than $34,000 per year to educate these children. We are losing money.
Okay, so I'm losing track. Vic.
Thank you. Before I say what I wanted to say, let me just clear up one thing for the record here. There is no tax money that goes to the municipal pool. Bart is absolutely wrong. He's off base. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It is in the budget, but it is in the budget as a separate utility that is separate revenue and separate expenses, and no property taxes goes to the pool. And so that's clear. We have a $38 million budget in 2011. That's what it costs to run the town. About 69% of that is property taxes, and the other 31% comes from other resources. So we are bringing in a lot of other resources. $11 million, almost $12 million. We get that from fees for services. We're doing something now by refinancing current debt so we can pay a cheaper interest rate. We get grants. We have our grant writer here. We get a lot of grants. We're bringing in money. We're doing some strategic economic development. For all the criticism that we're hearing about some of the work that we're doing around bringing in residential property, the new development that's going to be at the former police station building will bring in $200,000 a year in taxes. That's new money. $120,000 of that goes to the school, and $55,000 of that about is going to go to the town. That's new money. So that's one way, and I don't think you can build your way out of it. I do agree on the cost containment. And that's something that we have to do, because we can't build all of Maplewood. We can do some of it. We have to control the cost. Now, the biggest cost, obviously, is personnel. And we're going to sit at the negotiating table. The contracts are up at the end of this year. We're going to sit across from our unions, and we're going to explain what's going on. We're going to explain our commitment to holding down taxes. But let's not forget that in 2011, the Township Committee passed the budget with no increase in property taxes for the average homeowner. No increases in property taxes for the average homeowner. That's what we did. We did that by keeping costs down.
Thank you. India?
Well, I think our current course of raising revenue or saving money through our shared services initiatives is a good start. Then there's another obvious way to raise revenue, and that is to bring in more tax rateables. The development of the post office to make sure that that property has tax rateables, has businesses in it. The development of, if, as I said in my statement to the news record, the development of the King's building. I would like to see the King's building move over, and the development of the King's building would then also be more tax rateables. Additionally, rigorous code enforcement in town can also bring more revenues. We have lots of codes in town: speeding, zoning, property maintenance. If we were to rigorously enforce those codes, that would bring more revenue as well. And while I would hate to see it, parking meters on Springfield Avenue, in the village, would also bring more revenue to the town.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is about the Hilton Library. Are you committed to maintaining the Hilton Library? Please state your reasons. And we start with Bart's statement.
Okay.
No, I think it's yours.
Bart, I mean,
This is the library.
yes.
Having two libraries in a municipality the size of Maplewood is a real luxury, and one I would fully support. However, if the Township Committee continues on making financial decisions that they have been making for the last 10 years and are allowed to continue, the Township Committee will have no other choice but to close this branch of the library. This would be a sin and yet another black mark on a string of many on the Township Committee.
Thank you. Nick?
Yes, I'm committed to maintaining the Hilton Library. I think I've been pretty clear about that over the years. But let's put this in perspective. A couple things. One is our current library director is retiring at the end of this year, and the library board, which I sit on, is in the process of hiring a new librarian. So when we hire that person, he or she will be able to work with us and thinking about how to run the library in a different way, with more shared services, with the schools, with other libraries, in a more cost-efficient way. So I think I would like to see that happen before we make any kind of decision about the allocation of additional resources or how we're going to possibly change any of the library system. I think both libraries are important. I've always said we have one library, we just have it in two different buildings. And if you didn't have both of those buildings, we would not have enough space and enough facilities for people to utilize. If you can go to both libraries, if you were able to be in both libraries at one time, you would see that all the computers are being used, people are being engaged, children's programs, adult programs, trainings. So we don't have enough space in either one of the buildings. So if you think about it, we just happen to have a large library in two buildings. Let's talk a little bit about the money. Last year, this year, in 2011, we allocated $1.7 million. We were only required to allocate $1.2 million. So this Township Committee has shown a commitment. We have given about $520,000 a year more than the state requires because we are committed to the library. That's $10,000 a week. So I think we've said it with our action. Thank you.
Thank you. India?
As I've said before, I am committed to a strong and viable library system. And to the extent that the Hilton Library is a part of that system, I am committed to keeping the Hilton Library. I would like, and I've said before, I'd like to explore the possibility of shared services between library systems, between our system and another municipality. To that extent, the role of the Hilton Library might change within that system. Perhaps it might be a readily accessible tech center for the people in Maplewood and other municipalities who want to use it, or a reference center, or a tutoring center. The role of the Hilton Library might change, but certainly the Hilton Library needs to be here. Whatever its role is, it's uniquely situated in this area of town to not only be an accessible resource for some people in this area who may not readily have access to another library, but it's also a real strong anchor in this part of town on the Springfield Avenue Business District. So we certainly would want to keep it here because it does play a very important role to the system.
Thank you. And then if you would read Joel's response.
Yes, the Hilton branch offers great education opportunities for all segments of the Maplewood population, and it offers access to the libraries of the state.
Thank you. Okay, the next question has to do with safety. There are 3 sections. Would you prefer we read all the questions and then, okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
About these 3 sections. Do we have a minute and a half
No,
for
I think
each question or the whole?
No, there are 3 full questions, so we would have 1.5 minutes for each one. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, though, for clarifying that. All right, so the questions are, do you have any ideas for raising awareness and for enforcing the safety law that requires drivers to yield to pedestrians at crosswalks? The next one is, to avoid the backed up traffic on Springfield Avenue, drivers are using the local streets. What would you do to alleviate the overflow of traffic on these streets? And the third one is, teenagers often walk in the middle of the street, blocking traffic and creating a safety hazard for themselves and drivers. Do you have any suggestions for putting a stop to this situation? We'll start with Vic.
On the crosswalks, we have been discussing this at the Public Safety Committee meeting and also the Planning and Engineering meeting, because it's a twofold thing. Number one, there has to be police enforcement. And I've asked the chief just a couple of weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, I guess, to try to do some additional enforcement on Prospect between Springfield and the Union border, because people just fly down there and they just disregard those crosswalks. The other problem is, so we have enforcement is one, and I think what we're doing is we're doing everything from stationing a police car there to watch, to doing stings, where you actually have police officers that try to cross the street. And if they can't get across the street, people won't stop. There's a police car down the street that pulls them over. So that's something we'll be working on to do that. So everybody please stop. The second thing I think we have to do on the planning and engineering side is we have to make sure that the crosswalks are properly marked. To be honest, sometimes when you're driving, because we have the hills, and even on Springfield Avenue, and even on Maplewood Avenue, where you have the paved crosswalks, sometimes you can't see it. So we need to get more of the signs that say crosswalk. Not the ones you put in the road because they'll be hit, but there's signs you put on the side of where the crosswalk is, where you have those arrows would alert people. And that's something that I want to continue to bring up at the planning and engineering meeting. Lastly, going back to Prospect, one of the things that we've done is we put in the budget, and we're about to start, we just awarded the contract Tuesday night. We're going to be building a raised crosswalk in front of the church on Prospect, where St. Joe's is, on the corner of Hilton and Franklin, so that it's actually going to be a raised crosswalk so people will hit it like a hump.
Did you answer all three?
You want me to answer all three at one
I
time?
think that will do.
Oh, okay.
The other one-
This is the one about the backed up traffic on Springfield
Right.
Avenue using local roads. I gotta be honest with you, I don't see it, but I'm not home during the day. I know when we had the street closed because of the work that we had up there, and we had Tuscan closed, and we've been doing some other closing. Yes, there was a spillover, but we get a lot of cars on our streets in general. And my street, Lexington Avenue, happens to be the cut through between Burnett and Indiana. So that's the one you can take all the way to avoid all the lights there. So that's, I know we get, additional traffic, because we get buses and we get the UPS and all that comes down. So, but to be honest, I don't see it. If we did see that, we would analyze it, take a look at the patterns. I do not think that anything that we've done on Springfield Avenue has forced people to the side streets. I know there are some particular difficult streets. Rutgers is one of them, because Rutgers is a connector between Springfield Avenue and our industrial area, and Burnett Avenue and Route 78. But in general, most of the side streets are not being affected by anything we did on Springfield Avenue. Last, teenagers who walk in the middle of the street. This is a problem that we've talked to the chief about. It's not just kids, we have adults who do that too. It's intimidating. Sometimes, sometimes it's even dangerous, because as it gets dark, sometimes the kids are wearing dark clothes, you can't see them. And we don't want to have any kind of an accident. So I think it's important that we try to encourage them to get off the street. We have had the police issue jaywalking tickets. And we've also had them take down names so that this continues to occur. It's something that we can address, but it really has to be education and enforcement, and that's what we continue to do. We've worked with the schools on it. We've done programs in the schools about having the kids walk on the sidewalk. It's for everyone's sake. Let's hope the kids and adults, more of them, do that. One thing we also have to do, though, is make sure the sidewalks are good, because we do have some sidewalks that are pretty dangerous, and I've seen some people, particularly with people with, who have concern about walking on these uneven sidewalks. They sometimes go out in the street and walk around blocks, when they do their walks, because walk around a house because of that situation. I did want to mention one thing about crimes. I wanted to put it into perspective. I want to compliment the police. I looked at the statistics from January to September of 10 and January to September of 2011. In the 8 major crime categories, the homicide rate, arson, robbery, and all that, we're down in 7 of them, and significantly in some, so I want to compliment them on their work.
Thank you. India?
With regard to drivers yielding to pedestrians in the crosswalk, I would send you back to my answer regarding raising revenue. If a driver fails to yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk, she's broken the law. And $130 to $150 ticket, complete with points, is a very strong behavior modifier, I think. Before we start just issuing tickets, though, I would like to see an education campaign. Email blasts, notices home from the schools, just to make sure that all drivers know that you must yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk. You might be surprised how many people actually don't know that. Checkpoints, such as what Vic was talking about, those would be very efficient in changing driver behavior. With regard to the going on streets to avoid traffic lights, sometimes this problem does arise, sometimes temporarily due to construction. If that happens, you really just have to get through it, and eventually people won't do that because the construction will end. But if it's not temporary, if we're in a position where this is happening on a regular basis, you do an exhaustive study such as the one Vic mentioned. You look at traffic patterns, and then there are remedies for that. We've used remedies in the past, one-way streets, no turn signs. We even, at one point, put up gates. While I'm not in favor of putting up gates to keep people from avoiding traffic lights, I certainly would be in favor of the alternative methods.
Did you want to continue?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, and the teens, yes. Teens do walk down the street. They walk down the middle of the street. It happens on my street all the time. I also see moms with strollers. I also see just a bunch of people walking down the street because they're just trying to talk to each other. And on the more narrow sidewalks, you can't have a conversation. You're talking to someone's back of someone's head. That said, just like drivers who don't yield to pedestrians need to be cited, people who are putting themselves at risk, putting drivers at risk because they're walking down the middle of the road, as Vic said, in dark clothing at night, they need to be cited as well. There's a need for some leniency because of the sidewalks, because you do want to have a conversation with your friends or with whoever you're walking with. However, when this behavior becomes a hazard, then it needs to stop. With the teenagers, if you want to cite them and they don't have the money, obviously, cite their parents. Because I'll tell you, that will get the message across by reaching the parents. Although I must admit, often my 15-year-old has more money than I do.
Thank you. And now would you please read Joel's response to the safety issues?
Raised pedestrian walkways across the street make drivers more aware of yielding to pedestrians, and it makes pedestrians more aware of crossing safely. Make ticket violations for failure to yield to pedestrians expensive. Teach driver safety in the schools. Also, more tickets need to be issued to drivers who make left-hand turns into parking spaces right in front of the signs that say no left-hand turn into parking space. This also creates a driving hazard. And now the traffic problems on Springfield Avenue. These were created by the Maplewood Township's actions to purchase Springfield Avenue and then create a lot of bump outs to increase parking zones along Springfield Avenue and to create 2 lanes of traffic that slow traffic into 2 lanes. The Township owns Springfield Avenue and it can make the changes. And now for the teenagers walking the street. Education and enforcement. Parents and the schools need to be involved in this safety issue. Too late, something is done after a person is killed or injured. The schools can monitor the actions of teenagers around the schools, but parents must take an active role in the behavior of their children. The township can issue jaywalking tickets with increasing cost penalties with each additional violation to both the teenage and the teenager's parents.
Thank you. And then would you read Bart's statement?
Years ago, I was instructed that before crossing any street, the first thing you do is stop, look both ways, and listen. You also never crossed in the middle of the street or from between parked cars, and you never crossed against a red light. Today, and partly because of the new pedestrian laws, people are crossing while having their cell phones stuck to their ears or having earbuds on, listening to their music, or too busy texting others to pay attention to their surroundings. They have made it the responsibility of others for their own safety. If you want to raise awareness and enforce new pedestrian laws, you must also enforce existing jaywalking laws. A parent with a child in hand walking in the middle of the street or crossing from between parked vehicles is not only breaking the law, but recklessly endangering the safety of the child and teaching their child that it is okay to break the law. You cannot enforce one law while allowing other laws to be broken. It sends the wrong message as to the backed up traffic. The Township Committee has caused this problem by taking a major 4-lane artery, converting it into a 2-lane street with bump outs at a huge expense to taxpayers over the last 10 years. There's no simple or cheap solution to this problem. However, if you wish to solve this problem, you must first hold those members of the Township Committee that caused or supported the creation of this problem, remove them from office. Then you have a possibility of resolving the problem. And as far as the teenagers, just like everyone else, must be instructed in the rules and laws of the road. If the laws are not obeyed, then there must be consequences to breaking those laws. Today's youth want to be empowered and have personal rights, but those rights do not mean that they can disregard the rights of others. We have jaywalking laws in place. They should and must be enforced.
Thank you. Okay, now this question was submitted before the last Township Committee meeting. So I'll read it, and I'm not sure what was discussed at that meeting, if anything. It's about the chicken raising in town. Do you agree with the decision about raising chickens in residents' backyards? If there was a decision, I'm not sure what the status of India.
I am not in favor of people raising chickens in their backyards. However, that said, the ordinance was passed to start the pilot program. I am still concerned about the possible impact on the existing rodent issues in some of the neighborhoods. I'm also not in favor of expending Mr. Rowe's resources on the program. Even with only 5 to 10 approvals for this program, the training and the regular time it's inspecting the sites of the chicken coops are resources that I think could be better spent elsewhere. However, like I said, the committee did pass the pilot and will, in the future, very near future, pass the necessary criteria for the pilot. So now, what we need to do is keep an open mind and a discerning eye to see if we can evaluate the pilot program on its merits.
So next, would you read Joel's?
Certainly. I disagree with the decision to raise chickens in Maplewood. It is possible to purchase organic eggs, and Maplewood's ambiance is threatened with actions like this.
And then would you read Bart's?
Maplewood is not an agrarian community. It is one of residential families and commuters. I cannot see the benefit in allowing a few minority groups to create a potential health hazard by raising chickens in their backyards. What is the purpose of raising chickens? Is it for food and/or eggs they produce? If so, what steps would have to be taken to prevent avian flu and other potential diseases? These are not clean animals. They defecate where they please, and they have seasonal molting. Is this yet another example of the Township Committee placating a few at the expense of the entire community?
Dick?
Do you agree with the decision? Yes, I voted for it, so I was part of the decision. And what I find just amazing is that we've had probably 7 Township Committee meetings where this was discussed, going back to July. And just like tonight, Mr. Albini and Mr. Ziegler, obviously who have strong beliefs in it, did not show up one time. Never contacted me, never called me, never emailed me. So they might not have agreed with it, but not unlike other citizens who were there, who took time out to let us know what they thought, they did not. And I don't, again, it's not the kind of leadership that we're looking for on the Township Committee. It was a struggle to vote for it, to be honest. I said that last night, or Tuesday night. And in the end, I decided to go with a pilot project. I would not have approved it permanently at this time. But I do think a pilot project with some strict criteria, some guidance in the front end from the town and experts on how to do this, and in some monitoring through the 1-year pilot, I think it's an okay thing, and I think it's worth giving it a try. If the neighbors don't want it, it won't happen, and I think everyone's rights are respected here. You know, part of the job as being a Township Committee person is just know when the time is up.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is about your candidacy. And the question is, What sets you apart from the other candidates? And we'll start with Joel's response.
My wife and I have lived in Maplewood for decades. I am a New Jersey native and a lifelong Republican who believes we can manage the public's trust and money better than it is being done now. My children through the local school system, and I am currently an attorney in private practice in Maplewood. I served as Maplewood Zoning Board Counsel for over 20 years, and I was also appointed to and served on the local advisory committee on alcohol and drug abuse, and on the Essex County Board of Education. I have real local experience. As a volunteer, I've served as president of the Maplewood Lions Club and as Lions International District Governor. My volunteer service also includes JC's, Trustees of Eyes, Volunteer Assistance for the Blind, South Mountain Counseling Center Board of Trustees, Our House Youth, and the United Way Drive Chairman. I am an active parishioner at Our Lady of Sorrows Roman Catholic Church. I believe in giving back to the community.
Thank you. Now would you read Bart's, please?
First, I am not a politician, nor do I want to start a political career. The reasons for my running for Township Committee in Maplewood are because I am not comfortable with the way our town has been and is being run by the current administration. It is an administration that is catered to the interests of the minority, the squeaky wheel, and their own self-interest at the personal and financial expense of all residents of Maplewood. The current administration has not worked to solve problems, but has applied band-aids to severe issues. We are in a very tough economic environment, and decisions have to be made, though not always pleasant, that will allow Maplewood to survive these times and come out stronger and better. Our Constitution provides us with the freedom that, if we are not happy or in agreement with the methods of how issues are being resolved, we have a right to challenge those decisions and the people who have made them. It is time to change Maplewood back from a me society to a we society.
Thank you. Dick?
Well, I'm the incumbent, so that's one thing that sets me apart from the other three. So I would hope that you'd look at 12 years of my experience and my service. It started here. I actually lived here for 3 years and got elected, so I cannot say that I've been here as long as Joel, maybe not even as long as Bart. But when I got here, I decided that I was going to get involved, and I did. 8 days here. I went to my first meeting at Columbia High School. And it's been like that since. I've been to meetings, I've been involved in organizations. Yes, I see myself as a change agent. The other thing I think that is different in my view of government than our opponents is I believe government is a force for good. And I believe it is something that makes life better for people. I reject some of the notion of the Tea Party and the Ronald Reagan era in which government is the problem. I think that's the wrong approach. I think government is the solution, not the only solution, but one of the solutions. So I am very invested in making sure government is an active party in making things different. We had a fundraiser at the Yale Street condominium building in Partees. And I said then that 10 years ago, where we were standing was a gas station, an abandoned gas station. And because of town effort, it is now a viable building, a tax-paying building, and part of the Maplewood community.
Thank you. India?
Well, one obvious difference that sets me apart from my running mate and my opponents is my interest in youth and the activities and our diligence towards them. And that would be because, unlike them, I and my husband are still raising our children here in this township. We're still in the process of trying to make this town, or rather make our children good citizens in a township. And what they see me do, what they see my husband do, we hope will rub off on them as well. So with young children, I therefore have a real stake in keeping Maplewood crime-free and safe. in keeping the streets safe for walkers, be they teenagers or mothers with strollers, in keeping the library system efficient and as accessible as possible, and keeping all this going for as long as possible so that my children can grow up and live here in this township that I love so much. Raising a family in this economy, most of you know, is not an easy thing. And like I said, I have 3 children. So I also have a stake in making sure that as a township committee, we spend taxpayer dollars as responsibly as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes our prepared question section. And now we'd like to see if there are people in the audience who would like to ask a question. We hope so. And this is really a time at our forum that it's very unfortunate that our other candidates are not here. Yes.
I'd like to ask the question of both candidates. We now are looking into the possibility of pay to throw as a change in our garbage hauling. What do you see as the advantages and disadvantages of this proposal, and which way you're leaning at the current time?
Okay, let's see, I think we'll start.
Yes, there's 2 components of the proposal, so let's talk about both of them. One, currently right now, each individual family has a contract with either Waste Management or Waste Industries to have garbage picked up in the back of the home twice a week. One proposal is to have a unitary contract, and that is the town would, as an entity, as a single entity, go out with a request for a bid for one carrier to pick up everyone's garbage. It would still be in the backyard, and it would still be twice a week. The difference is, instead of paying Waste Management or Waste Industries about $111 every quarter, we pay the town. So the billing would be different. So that's one part of it, is the unitary pricing. And I think I'm not troubled by that if in fact the numbers work so that there's a benefit in savings. Someone said to me, well, if it's only $40, let's assume you save 10%. You're spending $400 now and you save 10%. Someone said to me, well, you're only saving $40 a household. I said, well, we've got a lot of households in Maplewood. If you can, save in aggregate $250,000 for the people in Maplewood, that's a good thing, I think. It's better. I'd rather keep it in our pockets than give it to Waste Management or Waste Industry. So that's one component. The second component is a pay-as-you-throw, and that is really a method to increase recycling by putting a cost on throwing away garbage. Because then you're thinking about, do I put this in the garbage bag because I got a sticker on there that cost me whatever it cost me, or do I put it in recycling? So the idea is to try to divert things that can be recycled out of the garbage into recycling. I think we have to hear more about that, just like we have to hear more of the first part to get the numbers working. We have to understand whether that works, what's the cost of that compared to the cost savings of the unitary pricing. So I think there's a lot of information that we have to gather at this point. I have an open mind about both. I don't know if it makes sense or not. Part of the thing we're going to do is we have a meeting on the 24th to roll this out, get community response. And then we're going to be talking about it probably for a good part of 2012. We can't start it right away. There's a lot of contractual things that are involved here. But we're going to talk about it and make some decision. And I think for me, it has to work for everybody. It has to work for every single person. Has to be user-friendly. It has to increase recycling if that's what our goal is. And it can't add cost to the town.
Thank you. India?
I'm in favor, actually, of the pay-as-you-throw method of getting rid of our garbage. And the reason I like that, I said earlier in another forum that I don't have a lot of green ideas because I believe that we should incorporate green into everything we do. We have to get rid of our garbage. What better way to do it than to incent people to recycle? I'm actually a late recycler myself. I didn't come to recycling actually really being diligent about it until I moved to Maplewood. And that was because it was done here on a regular basis. And as I've become more and more adept at it, I recycle more and more, and I have less and less garbage. Well, just like I can evolve that way, other people can too. But this would be a great incentive to help it happen. It's also a great way to, like I said earlier, incorporate being environmentally friendly in just living in the township, which then sends a huge message to other townships so that we can be an example in this area. Thank you.
Another question? Yes.
This is a question for Maplewood, if I might. Mayor, in an article in the News Record today, your opponent took the position that our special improvement districts in town have been a failure, and that if he were elected, he would eliminate them. I'd like you to react to that point of view and tell us if you agree with it or disagree with it and why.
Well, I guess he's never come to a Mayfest. You know, part of the special improvement districts, their mission is to create an atmosphere which attracts people to shopping areas. There's a partnership on the Avenue and the Alliance in Maplewood Village. So the events that we run, the Springfield Avenue, the Mayfest, the festival that was just held, the Fall Festival on Maplewood Avenue, where we close the street and we get people out there and interacting with the merchants. That's so very important. It's a positive experience. So that is done by the two entities, the two special improvement districts. I think what Mr. Albini doesn't understand is that the town doesn't fund those special improvement districts for the most part. The town provides $20,000 to the Springfield Avenue Partnership for its maintenance of the planters that the town put up there, and planters that, and a decision that we made that it was cheaper to outsource that work to the partnership to have people take care of the planters than to have the DPW do it. The town put the planters out there. So we feel it's incumbent upon us to make the allocation to do that work. But the bulk of that money comes from an assessment that the property owners and the business owners on the avenue pay for themselves. Likewise in the village, we give the Village Alliance about $15,000 for maintenance and for marketing there. It's the same thing. The merchants there, the property owners there are paying for the Village Alliance. So I just don't know what Mr. Albini's talking about when he talks about disbanding them. I think they have proven to be such a positive force in both improvement districts. And I would just point to the comparison on Irvington Avenue, where we have tried for years to create a cohesion among about the 10 property owners there, just 10 property owners as opposed to over 200 on Springfield Avenue. There's no culture of cooperation there, and without that kind of a special improvement district or a business district, it just does not gel. And I think some of the problems we have on Irvington Avenue on keeping business there and attracting the right kinds of businesses there are just so much more difficult to overcome because we don't have that kind of gel that we have or that cohesion that we have on Springfield Avenue because of the partnership, and that we have in the village because of the Alliance. And just one other thing, if I can say this. I am troubled sometimes because we have marketed our town separately, the village and the avenue and Upper Ridgewood or Valley. So what I have done is been talking for years about doing a one Maplewood approach, and that's something that we have been able to put forth in a limited way, but we're moving in that direction. This year, for the first time, we had a restaurant week that included all 50 food establishments that we have in this town. It was a combination of the partnership, the Alliance, and the Chamber of Commerce. Just last Wednesday, a week from yesterday, the Alliance and the partnership and the Chamber of Commerce staffed the table at Destination Essex, which is an economic development conference and a business development conference, so that we could promote Maplewood. We were the only municipality out of 22 in the county to have somebody there. So I do think it's working, and I think it is just wrong to think about disbanding something which the town actually doesn't fund for the most part. I don't even know why he would think that, but I think they've proven to be very successful.
Thank you. Another question? Sure. Going once? Okay, we had time for a final statement, and we're running out of time, so I'm glad that we're moving right along. So, let's see. I think we'd start again with, according to my chart here, well, we start with India, because we did start with Vic before.
I'm grateful to be living in this township. I've already contributed my time, my effort, and truth be told, my sleep to its well-being. I look forward to working with Jerry and Marlon and Kathy and Vic to continue to address the issues that we have. We have economic development issues, we have resource and revenue issues, we have some crime issues. I also look forward to working on the interests of families, youth, and senior citizens in this town to make sure that we keep their unique needs in mind. However, all of what I want to do, all of what Vic has said he wants to do or wants to continue, all of that starts with a vote. Your vote, and your vote, and your vote. And I'm here asking for those votes, for me and for Vic, so that we can get busy, we can roll up our sleeves, and we can work for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Vic?
Well, thank you for coming out. You know, we've had 25 people come out tonight to listen to us, and I want to just say that we appreciate you coming out and spending time. We know that time is precious. You know, you want to be with your family. You worked hard all day, but you did come out. And I want to congratulate my colleague for coming out too, and just point out that our opponents did not. And it is, I think, just disrespectful, to be honest, to the association, and it should be noted. And I want to just applaud the association for doing this. I know when we talked about this many years ago, I think our first was a school board debate that I facilitated many years ago. I don't think any of those people are on the school board anymore, but it has been just an annual process. This is the one constant in political life here, is that you have to come to the Hilton Neighborhood Association debate. So I just want to congratulate everybody for your stamina and for doing that. I too asked for your vote, and I would ask for you to vote for India, even though you mentioned me last about wanting to work with. I think that we will make a good team there. I think we'll have just a really good creative group there. India, as she mentioned before, brings a new vision, a vision with young people. Marlon has some of that. His children were just going through high school and now are moving through, his son is moving through college. So I think with some of us who have been there for a while, it's just a very nice blend. And so I think we'll do very well there, and ask for your vote for both of us. We're committed to keeping Maplewood the best place it can be. We are concerned about a lot of the things that we talked about tonight, and we're willing to roll up our sleeves and work on those. And I think that's the question. Are you able to get something done? I believe that in the 12 years that I've been on the Township Committee, I think I have a pretty good reputation for getting things done, because I think that's what's important. Government has to be responsive, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to work very hard, put the time in, and I believe India will do the same thing, and we will work as five to craft as creative solutions we can to the challenges that we face.
Thank you. I wanted to, of course, thank our two candidates here for such intelligent responses and such heartfelt beliefs, and we know that you are hard workers. I too am very disappointed that our other candidates did not respond at all to us until 5 o'clock today. So I'm sorry about that. I do want to remind everyone that November 8th is the election, and there is also a state election that is quite important, so I hope you'll educate yourself about that. I want to thank Mary Mann and Joy for coming and taping this so that other people who are not here can
And the news
benefit.
record is here too.
Oh,
Christina
sorry.
Hernandez,
Okay.
the editor of the news
Christina,
record.
the news record, we have.
Yeah, they
I'm
do it,
sorry.
they do an editorial, so we want to be nice to them.
Yes, I had a nice conversation with Christina when she first came in, so thank you for reminding me. So, again, don't forget to vote and get your neighbors out, because this is a democracy, and we have one of the lowest voting rates of many of the democracies in this world. So, and thank you again, and we have some refreshments thanks to our HNA members, so help yourself and enjoy the rest of the evening. Yes?
Would you mind if Ian said something about the election?
Yes. that
Similar
would-
to what you told all of us as district leaders.
You know, this year, there's no national race or no statewide race that people are going to be voting in. So, in those years, typically voter turnout is quite low. And the people who you're going to be voting for in this election are your township committee members, your state assembly people, your state senator. These are the people who have the greatest impact on what's going on for us here locally in Maplewood and South Orange and West Orange for the legislative district. I don't know if I can be partisan here. Okay, then I won't. But it's very important to come out and to show your support, in my opinion, for the people who've been doing a very good and strong job for people here in Maplewood, not only for the Township Committee, but for our state legislative races.
Thank you very much.
A ballot question regarding betting at sports betting at casinos and at racetracks. So read the ballot question when you get your sample ballot so you can cast an intelligent vote.